A couple of days ago, I sat down with a client who has nothing saved for retirement. The usual advice you give out is you should buy a low-cost ETF and invest in it every month in your 20s, your 30s, all the way up until 65. The only problem is, this guy was already 52 years old and he was starting to panic. Statistics show that almost half of Americans also have nothing saved for their retirement, many of which are already over the age of 40. But who can blame them? Building wealth for retirement is fucking hard. In your 20s, you're still figuring out what life is. You're spending your money trying to buy a new car, get the latest iPhone or watch, and most of all, trying to get laid on a beach in Ibiza. You then hit your 30s and you realize that youth is slipping away. So you spend even more money upgrading your status, upgrading your car, and trying to grasp on any youthful dopamine you can get your grubby hands on. But now, usually, you have newfound responsibilities and costs with a young family. Your 40s come rolling in, your career is now firmly in place, and your salary is steadily increasing. But you find keeping up with your mortgage payment is stressful, leaving you little money left over after you reshoot your kids. In your 40s, you feel like you are barely getting by just to pay the mortgage and keep the boat afloat. Then comes your 50s. Your kids are getting married and going off to college, and finally you have some free time. So you take your missus on the dream holiday you always wanted, and then before you know it, you've hit your 60s and you realize, fuck, where did all my money go? The reality is, nobody teaches us how to look after our own financial future. So if you are in your 30s, your 40s, or even your 50s and feel like you're behind, do not panic. Take a deep breath because you are not alone. As a wealth manager who specialized in retirement planning, I've dealt with all shapes and sizes of clients, from school teachers all the way up to CEOs of billion-dollar companies, and the problems are pretty much the same across the board. In this video, I want to offer you some key points that you need to focus on right away if you feel like you are behind financially. A common saying you hear in retirement is that your cruise ship may have left. It may feel like your retirement boat has sailed off into the sunset without you, but do not panic. If you look down in the harbor, there's many retirement boats left. They're just in different shapes and sizes. Regardless of your age, there are still options for retirement down in the harbor. All you have to do is walk there. The first thing you need to do is help me out by helping yourself out. You need to go down in the comments, put your age and how much you currently have saved for your retirement. Doing this will set a benchmark and hold you accountable to where you currently are now. But it will also motivate others to act because it will show many people are in the same situation. Together, we can motivate each other to get through this tough time. And I promise you, it's going to help somebody if you go and do this. But the big thing is, doing it will also set a starting point in your financial race. It will put the blocks in your feet so that you can run forwards. After all, if you do not know where the start point is, can you really start your financial race? The second thing that you must do is believe what you are actually doing is the right thing. There are constant distractions and pressures from the outside world that you should upgrade your car and buy some new shoes and so on and so forth. But that is false. You need to believe what you're doing is the right thing for your financial future and that it is a big priority. You have to believe in the process, believe in the system that you set in place. If you do not want to drive a taxi in your 70s or work some long hours at a supermarket, then you have to believe each and every month that when you're putting money away, it is for a good cause and your own financial future. You need to understand and train yourself that this is the right thing and the most important aspect on your spending list. An old trick I used to do when I was doing a fact find or a KYC with a client is to write down all your priorities. I'd help them pick some of these priorities because they would forget them too. They'd write down mortgage, credit card, date night with the wife, children's education, financial future, car payments, and some would even write down things like Starbucks. Then what I would ask them to do is to write down in order which is the most important. If you do this trick yourself, you'll find that your financial future will be in the top 3 of the list. So pay these off in order. And debt will be quite far down the list. Of course, you should pay off your minimum payments, but your financial future is actually more important than paying off a credit card early. The next thing that you need to do is educate yourself as much as possible and continue that process. Nobody has ever gone into a big decision thinking, you know what, I wish I knew less about making this decision. The more you learn and educate yourself, the quicker and better your decision-making process will be in the future. Now, I get that reading books is utterly lame. It's boring and books just take way too much time and it's easier to wait for the movie to come out. But here's a simple hack that I genuinely do. Take a finance book into the toilet and every time you sit down to drop off the kids, just read 10 pages. These books you see right now are books that I have all read on the toilet at some point in my life. That's an insight I never expected to share. But if you do this 10-page strategy every single day, you will knock down one book every single month. That's 12 books a year. It's a huge milestone. You can even up the ante by on the commute to work. You can download audiobooks and up the game even further. There are even some subscription services out there that make buying and reading books even cheaper than just buying them for a one-off fee. And the best part of all, it keeps Greta Thunderbird happy because less trees are getting hurt. Reading books like the ones you see on screen will not only educate you, but it will help keep you laser focused on reaching your goals. And if you want to help the channel out, there's links for my favorite books down in the description. The next thing you need to do is you need to formulate a plan. Now, normally you would hear some kind of bullshit like write down your plan on a piece of paper, stick it on your mirror when you're brushing your teeth, read it, and get some motivational Facebook post of Michael Jordan and share it on Facebook. But that bullshit just doesn't work. The biggest and best thing you can do for your finances in terms of a plan is just simply build a budget. This is the only plan you actually need. I realized that throughout the years, personally, people from CEOs of big companies all the way down to people who are just getting by are all struggling with a budget in some way or form. That's why I created my course, which is down on the pinned comment for a very affordable price. But if you still struggle with budgeting or just feel it's too much for you, this is one of the biggest pieces of advice from my course, and I call it the 220s, and it is a golden rule for personal finance. If you don't do anything else from this video, please just do this. The day you get paid, whatever that amount of money that hits your bank account is, put 20% of it into a total market ETF like ticker symbol VOO, and try and do this in a tax advantaged account. That's the first 20. The second 20 is the day before you get paid on your next paycheck, put 20% of what is left over from last month's paycheck into the same ETF. Just by doing this one simple factor, it puts you ahead of about 90% of people, and it guarantees that over a long period of time, your wealth will grow. If you can get yourself into the mindset of contributing regularly the second you get paid, it will not only make you wealthier in the future, but it will also stop you recklessly wasting your paycheck because now you only have 80% to blow on a new Rolex. I promise you that if you do this strategy for 3 to 6 months, you will personally feel like you have achieved more in them months than you have done in the rest of your life financially. Once you've figured out your budget and started investing every single month, you need to figure out how long it is in a realistic sense until retirement. If you're lucky enough to be 30 years old, a realistic goal would be 35 years till retirement and do the 220s rule on your income until the age of 65. But if you're 50, unfortunately, this isn't gonna work. You only have 15 years left if you want to retire at 65, and it sucks. The reality is you need to invest more than 20% to get to where you need to be. But you shouldn't worry about it. You should start with 20% and build up as much as you can. After all, if you wanted the cruise ship and it sailed away, it's still better to have a rubber dinghy than to have some armbands from the state. Now, one of the biggest things many people struggle with, or one of the excuses they use for not doing retirement, is debt. And it sucks. I completely get it. But provided you've done your 220s, you can then look at killing off debt. There's a whole chapter in the course with tips and tricks on how to deal with debt in different ways. But no matter what you do, you have to address this situation. You have to deal with it. If you're struggling with debt, there is something called the snowball method, where basically you pay off the lowest dollar amount of debt first. Let's say it's a small credit card, and then once this is paid off, you use this new freely allocated cash to pay off the next smallest debt, and it snowballs into a debt-free life. And I would recommend that most people do this one rather than focus on complicated variable interest rates. Not because it's a good method, not because it's paying off debt in the quickest way, just because it gives you the quickest win possible, keeping you motivated and having that belief that I mentioned earlier in the video. So now we come on to the last bit. And if you've made it this far and left your age and the amount you have saved in the comments, firstly, thank you, and I want to leave you with the best bit of wisdom I can give to anybody in these situations. When it comes to personal finance, it's super important to have belief, but the most important thing is consistency. Many people sign up to the gym on January the 1st. They do a week or two, maybe even a month, and then they give up and they repeat the process every January. If you act on this video but then are not constant with your investments and your budget, then you're going to be in a worse situation in a few years than you even are now. Many of you watching this will feel like the ship to retirement has sailed. The boat is long gone. And that panic of feeling, what do I do now? I don't want to rely on the state, is real. But if that massive cruise ship has sailed and it's left you on the harbor with a retirement ticket, all you have to do is look down into the harbor, find a vessel you like the look of, that you can afford, and start walking to it. Without taking that walk step by step continuously, that boat is going to sail off too, and you're going to be left there with a retirement ticket and no vessel to get you to where you want to be. So to start walking at the briskest pace possible to get you to retirement, I suggest you learn from the masters. I have read hundreds of finance books, and all of them preach one key message that is hidden within them. So if you want to see what it is, watch this video next to learn what every finance book tells investors.